Yndaros, the Darkest Star, is the third adventure in the Chronicles of the Throne of Thorns campaign for the Symbaroum role-playing game. And as the two books before this, it once again is divided into a part that describes the city of Yndaros and into the second part that is actually the adventure, the Darkest Star. The first part, the city description, is also subdivided into a part that you can give your players to read if they play a character that comes from Umbria or should be knowledgeable about the city of Yndaros. You can give this part to the player to read. And you also have a Game Master section with all the nitty-gritty details and dark secrets your players shouldn't be aware of. So let's browse through section 1 quickly. Yndaros is the biggest city in Umbria. It's the capital, it houses the royal palace. We've got a pretty nice 2-page spread map right here. It looks really good, I think, but it is south to north. That takes a bit getting used to. I assume they did it this way so they had the waterfront on the bottom of the map here. As you can see, it's a big city, not by modern standards. Houses maybe 10,000 people or so. But there's enough city for a lot of city adventure to go around. Surely. Got your upper class housing, lower class housing, even some slums. You can get a port on the river. And of course the palace that is dominating the skyline of the city. You get descriptions of some taverns of note, some places where you can find room and board of note. Entertainment, they have, for example, an arena, gladiatorial arena. Trade and commerce, where you can buy stuff. Even some places you can visit to gain knowledge and information, be it the archives or the legacy gallery. Lots of stuff in here. We also get some descriptions of the surrounding countryside. And the noble houses ruling said countryside. Oh, there's a lot of stuff to work with here. In the Game Master section we get a lot of behind the scenes details about the various plots and intrigues that the noble houses are working against each other, and also some corruption cults that work to undermine the rule of Queen Corinthia. There is stuff in here for several adventures, I'd say. Lots of factions you can use as a quest giver for your PCs. And we get some dedicated adventure seeds you can pick up and start growing into a proper adventure. Lots of stuff in here, lots of intrigue, lots of city adventure. After this we get a few new rules, like ceremonial magic. It's like ritual magic, which is like regular magic but bigger. Ceremonial magic, you need lots of people and a ceremonial book, and then you can cast really big scale magic spells that can devastate a city. This is more of an adventure hook than anything that your players are likely to do. Got some new mechanics, new artifacts, interesting stuff in here. Not super remarkable. Let's get to the adventure, The Darkest Star. It is, of course, set in the city of Yndaros. And we start with an overview of how the adventure is supposed to play out. Act 1, Fire under Yndaros, is the introduction. And as the players are in the city, probably searching for the tomb of Zimba'S, a meteor swarm hits the city and destroys the Cathedral of Prios, where there was a wedding rehearsal, and hopefully the player characters rush in there to see if they can help. There's once again a huge battle scene with fire-possessed humans and animals as your opponents in this case. And they get the opportunity to meet some important people on site there. They can save Queen Corinthia's sister from the fire. And get into her good graces, have a powerful ally in the city. While the PCs investigate the meteor crater, they find there's a hole there that leads to this small dungeon, and apparently some prisoner had been kept in here right under the cathedral. And that prisoner is now missing. Now Act 2 is about the PCs investigating who caused this starfall, who made an attempt on Queen Corinthia, or was it Queen Corinthia making an attempt on her sister? And it's an investigation type city adventure. They got like 3 main leads to follow, but also a few dead ends. And some of these leads depend on the PCs finding some important clues and items on the scene of the starfall in the ruin of the cathedral. And the adventurer wants them to make rolls to find them. So what I did, I scrapped all those rolls and gave the PCs the clues they needed to proceed the adventure when they looked in the right place. So one of the clues will lead them through the underworld of the city into another small dungeon where House of Dwarves. Dwarves are like the mafia in Yndaros, are keeping a important prisoner safe, the one cultists had sprang from the other prison under the cathedral. And this is probably the most interesting lead to follow, at least in my mind. For you see, this prisoner is no other than the Dark Lord Kalthar himself, who led the armies, led the empire that forced the Umbrians to flee from their former land. So you get a lot of background information on the most important events in the Symbaroum background story from this person. And he is very far from his Dark Lord's days. He is kind of repentive, wants to make up for his past deeds, and he thinks that he can do this best if he advises Queen Corinthia not to make his mistakes. So he will ask the players to get him back into the custody of the Queen. And he's really willing to negotiate and may help the players later on. The other lead goes to the site where they cast the ceremonial magic, and that was in Eastate, like a few hours of travel outside of town, and it has been devastated by a wave of corruption when the ritual failed. The ritual actually failed and still produced enough starfall to destroy the cathedral. If it had not failed, the city would have been completely devastated. But the cultists had been betrayed, and the ritual was meant to fail. So the PCs can find out about the ritual here. There will be some corrupted beasts, like a corrupted bull, for them to fight in here. And also some survivors in like the servants' quarters that can tell them what's going on. And they can get some clues about the identity of the cultists, about the man responsible for it all. The third clue leads them onto a ship on the river where a former master of the Ordo Magica now lives. He is said to be the last known person to have performed this ceremonial magic, this starfall magic, and that devastated a city in the war, but also the army that was besieging the city. So he got a medal for that, but all of the soldiers in the army hated him for it, and he has also been crippled by the corruption brought from that ceremony. But he can tell the players that it was not actually him performing this ceremony, but that his old master, Culinin Furia, the one from the first adventure, had come to visit him and is probably the one to have cast the ceremony. And the PCs can sneak in, can fight their way in, but what they really want is be able to talk to this guy and convince him to help them and get them the information they need. All of this leads to Zimba'S Tomb, that is actually in Yndaros, because Yndaros has been built on the ruins of a yet older city where some survivors from Zimba'S have brought the coffin the body of their former ruler. And there is an excavation on these ruins, and they PCs can use this as an entrance into the ruins. It's also in a part of town that is walled off from the rest of town, and after the starfall a drunken criminal has called out his own kingdom, which was a pretty bad idea. He is by far not powerful enough to hold his little kingdom, but it will pose a challenge for the PCs to get in here and get into this dungeon. In Symbaroum terms, this is a fairly big dungeon. There's lots of stuff to fight in here, to find in here, but most of it is not important to the story. They just want to get to a portal, and that portal leads to the yonder world, the world beyond, the world of the dead, if you will, where the body of Zimba'S was brought to. And to get there, the PCs will need someone to open the portal. Something like a necromancer, a demonologist. And they can potentially find one living in the slums of Yndaros, or the former Dark Lord, if they have not yet given him back to the Queen, might agree to open a portal for them. Then they find themselves in the underworld. It's a really bad, corrupting place, but they see a stone ship not too far from the portal, and if they enter the ship, they are shielded from the corruption. Can start investigating the ship, and it's the burial ship of Emperor Symbaroum, with all the bells and whistles that he will need for his life after death. So he got some mementos from the past. The PCs can learn a lot about Symbarian history in the chambers of this ship. But the important bit happens on the deck. First, they will meet Elemandra, the adventurer they were searching for in the last adventure. And she has come to this ship before the players and is stuck there. She can't leave. The guardians of this place won't let her. And she can propose to the players that they can ally, beat the guardians and escape together. There's also Colin and Furia, whose goal it was to get here to find the location of the Throne of Thorns and get more information on the power of corruption. He thinks he can use the power of corruption to further mankind, to further his own magical powers. But he didn't really find what he was looking for, and is now stuck on this ship just as Elemandra, and he too will propose to ally with the PCs to get off this ship. There was also the Emperor Zimba'S himself on this ship, and both Elemandra and Cullinan Furia have spoken to him, but shortly before the PCs arrive, Furia managed to talk him into leaving this place and move to the world beyond. So Emperor Symbaa is no longer here to be spoken to, which may be a bit of a missed opportunity, or maybe the writers decided they didn't want to give so much background information to the PCs just at this point. So, depending on who they ally with, they will have to fight the demons guarding the ship, the captain of the ship and his crew, which are all demons, some of them pretty powerful. And they will probably have to fight either Elemandra or Culin and Furia at the same time. So this is a pretty nice kind of chaotic climax battle on this stone ship in the underworld right here. And in the ship, of course, they can find this map. They can find a model of the realm of Symbaa, and from that they can derive this map with some of the known locations to find the location of the city of Zimba'S. That will be the location for the next adventure in the series. Then the adventure goes into what happens, what can potentially happen after the adventure, and how the world will progress coming up to the next adventure in the series. I did not like this adventure as much as I liked the last two in the series. I'm not sure completely why. Might have been that my players, my PCs, really wanted to play their old characters they played in the first two adventures, but said characters were like the number 2 most wanted in Umbria. They had made enemies of the crown, so they were wanted men in the cities and had to go in there in disguise. And my group was pretty power gaming min-max when it came to fighting, but had almost no social skills. So they were the worst group for this adventure, really. They blew their cover pretty quickly, and that led to a chase through the city with the city guard, and I had them take shelter with the criminals that will later in the adventure declare their own kingdom. And they had to fight in the arena to gain the trust of the head criminal, so we had some fun with that. But I couldn't motivate them to go to the bottom of this conspiracy, this the Starfall, and do the necessary investigation in Act 2. And then it just all came apart. We didn't even finish the adventure. I'm not sure if it is the fault of the adventure or my fault, or if it just didn't work out with my group. But Act 2 certainly has a lot of potential for failure if the PCs miss the important clues they need to find out the information to get into Act 3. So be aware of that. The book as a whole is once again amazing artwork, and the first part of the book, the city of Yndaros and the surrounding lands and the Game Master section with all the dirty little secrets. That's top grade material right here. That's enough to run many adventures in the city of Yndaros. All in all, I still think this is a good book. This is a great adventure book. But in the first part, the city of contrast, the description of the city of Yndaros and the surrounding countryside and all of the noble houses you can use and all of the little dirty secrets you find in the Game Master sections and the plot hooks you can use to make adventures, that alone is worth the price of the book, if you ask me. And the adventure, The Darkest Star, it's not that it's uninteresting or anything. The PCs can meet some very important people in this, can get some really great insights, and the different scenes, the different scenarios in this adventure are all very good. But to get the players to all these scenes, to all these scenarios, is tricky. So you have to look out for that. Look out that they get all the information that they need in the first act and get the allies they need in the city. Maybe if your gaming group, if your PCs are as bad for this adventure as my own were, convince them to make a group of characters just for this adventure. Maybe have them see the other side. If they have allied with the witches and the Iron Pact, maybe let them make Ambrian Knights and clerics of the Church of Priors and Templars and whatnot, so they are more easily able to get around in the city. Or maybe they are citizens of Yndaros and are involved with the criminal underworld. Something that makes it easier for them to find their way in the city and have allies in the city and find the information they need and then follow all the trails in the second act, so you can have this great confrontation in the third act. But all in all, not bad at all. So, thanks for watching and goodbye.